What's up, gamers? This is Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 40, Hex Ed, Nethermaze Rivals Review 2, Vainglorious. I keep wanting to say something else. That's not it. Vainglorious Conquerors, Raiders? Raiders, yep.
Just remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know?
Yeah, well, I want glorious something else there. And Patient Lurkers. So for anyone that isn't familiar, this is a podcast delving into the minds of 3 to 4 busy gamers, playing games that they love, balancing life with those games, and their annual journey to the Nova Open Convention, which is still happening, in theory. In this episode, we're going to cover the 2 new Warhammer Underworlds Rivals decks that were released in White Dwarf 478 2 days ago, as of the recording, 1 day ago, as of the recording of this episode. But before we get into that, I guess I should say that I'm Jerod Johnson, and I am joined by Trace Hyde.
I like Rivals decks.
And Jason Tabledew Murray.
So he totally messed up the intro 3 times.
Just real bad. It's okay.
We'll fix it in post.
No, it's not getting fixed in post.
It's all staying in there. You know, this is a Vainglorious intro.
Yeah, it is a Vainglorious intro. So
I guess I'll just be patient for you to work out your.
Yeah, right. Just lurk there. Good times. So yeah, so we are going to cover those decks, and we're going to go through our normal format where we kind of analyze the best of the objectives and power cards, so gambits, upgrades, and things like that. But before we jump all the way in, it's been a while since we recorded, so I thought it'd be good to talk about what we've been up to and and get caught up in that regard. So Trace, in the past 2-ish months, what you been up to?
Played some games. Played some Warcry. A little bit of Underworlds in there a couple times. And I've been painting Wampirs.
Wampirs?
Wampirs.
Yep. For our Age of Sigmar doubles army. Lots of Blood Knights. Got those all built up, primed, and started working on those last week. So that's what I've been doing for the most part. Did enjoy our Warcry games a couple weeks ago. Those were really fun. We had a grab and dash classic Jerod Johnson game, and then we had a 4-way smash with ourselves and the 3 of us and another folk from our community. His name's Corbin. So that was a lot of fun.
Multi-pass.
Yep.
Sweet.
Were your Warcry games really fun when Jerod just grabs the token and runs away?
Yes.
You don't sound convinced.
No, I called that was going to happen.
It's true, you did.
A turn early. I was like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to grab this thing. I'm not going to be able to reach you, and then you're going to win. Like, that's what's going to happen. We kept playing anyway, and my prediction was correct.
Because what he always does. He's a big scaredy cat.
Yeah.
I didn't do that in our 4-way battle.
The 4-way battle, you had to kill people. That was the whole idea.
There wasn't anything to pick up and run away with. No.
Well,
that's fair.
In the preview, because this is after the skirmish preview, where we are going to get a new set for Warcry, which looks fantastic. I'm hopeful that you cannot run away if they do update the rules, because there's in the community articles it says that it's like an updated rules, but we all know how that goes. Sometimes it's just the same rules reprinted. We've seen that with Warcry multiple times. But if they do make changes, I hope they sabotage your plans, Jerod.
Yeah, I think having some kind. I thought I saw on some of the cards that were previewed, like in one of the articles after, that there are like reactions and stuff in the game now too. So hopefully one of the core
that'd be cool.
reactions will be like essentially an attack of opportunity style nonsense like you can do in Dungeons and Dragons, where when Jerod grabs the thing from out from underneath your feet with his last activation, he can like be smashed when you try and run away.
I mean, that doesn't seem fair. Just because I'm picking up a thing.
Well,
Huh?
when you get too close and you try and run away.
The name is called War Cry.
I know,
Run shit up and
He's
run away.
crying.
I'm
He's
crying
crying right now for sure.
I'm taking my basketball and I'm going home.
Nah, but really, like I did enjoy our games. It was fun to get that game out. We haven't played it in a while, and it's our favorite game we don't play, which is what we say a lot. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, like I mean, I would love to play Warcry more. It's I don't know why, but it kind of has me jazzed. I've kind of fallen out of love with a lot of the big scale games, just because there's just so much content, and I don't have the brain power or time to stay up with everything. And playing those two games that night just was like it was fun, and we haven't played in so long, and the warbands or the guys that I put together were warbands from Underworlds. Shocker, right? Because I have all the Underworld stuff put together. So I played the Bladeborn Fighters, and it was really cool to have like 5 cards of abilities. I was like, wow, the last time I played, I had these generic abilities, and then like your normal 1 card for your faction.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, I agree.
My dice sucked though. I mean, just normally I roll lots of crits because I love crits, and any game that has crits, no crits in my games of Warcry.
That's so unfortunate.
So sad.
I know you guys are all sad, I know. But yeah, that was fun. We played that. I'd love to, like we always say, let's do a campaign because I think they're pretty standard and straightforward. But yeah, we never do. But I would like to do that more with the new set coming out. And I'm really excited to play in different realms, right? Because you have like the Spire.
Yeah, so we've been in Varenspire, that realm, in the 8 points up to date. But now we're shifting to the realm of Gur into the Gnarlwood.
Oh, it's gnarly.
It is good gnarly. The
All the
Gnarlwood.
gnarls.
Yep.
All the gnarls.
So,
Yeah, real exciting to get that, and I like to do that more. Staying on that trend of easy games, so this last meetup that we had, it was kind of like a little proud parent moment, right? Because it put a lot of work into getting people to come out and play. Thanks for sending me Trace is letting me know that my son is watching me from behind me, but my phone wasn't silent, so he's dinging. Aiden James, you need to be in bed instead of hiding behind my chair. Why? Because it's 11 o'clock at night, young man. Come here. Yes. How about you say hi? Just say hi into the microphone.
Hi.
Okay.
What's up, buddy?
Now say goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right. Good night. Love you. So it was kind of a proud parent moment, other than my son showing up behind my chair. Where we kind of
Balancing life with games, Jason.
Yeah.
Balancing life with games.
Getting all the gamers out on a Monday night when we had multiple game systems played. So we had an AOS, we had Underworlds, and then 3 new players showed up that were never introduced to Warhammer. Oh, shocker.
Yep.
And we played the board game Bladeborn, which is really Warcry on a hex-based board. And it was a lot of fun. Like, yes, there was a lot of teaching, and yes, there was a lot of like, I don't understand what's going on. But the game is so simple. Like, it's really just Warcry with pre-measured spaces, so you don't have to use a ruler. It was well balanced, and I enjoyed it. And honestly, like I want to play it again because I have all the painted warbands again. It kind of goes with the Underworld's warbands, and most of them are chaos. Like, I mean, I can use Eyes of the Nine in this game, so
Yeah.
kind of want to try that out again. And then got a couple games of Marvel Crisis Protocol in since the last time we've recorded, and again, just like once again, such a fun game. I think this last time we introduced Eddie and Hulkbuster, which has not been on the table for me yet. Got Revenge, because, you know, the game before that, Cable, on turn 1 through a gas station at Bucky, and I wasn't very happy with that, Jerod. So this time, Hulkbuster through a gas station at Colossus, and it was epic and awesome.
Yeah. No, it was sweet.
And as far as Underworlds go, I've been just trying to find out what I want to play. Like, we're in this weird state, and I'm sure Jerod can relate, that Nova's approaching. We've been playing an online league, but I haven't really gravitated to a championship warband because locally we're just playing Rivals and some Rivals Plus. I just haven't picked what I want to be good at in championship. I keep bouncing around, which means I suck. Well, wait, I suck anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I mean the last meetup was fun. It was cool to have fresh new players there, and we even ended up playing Exploding Kittens. So nothing miniatures related. But a fun game nonetheless. So that was good. And for my part, I have built and primed the 10 Mortek Guard that I need for the doubles list. The new Age of Sigmar, Warzone, whatever they're calling it, Realm, General's Handbook, rules.
The season,
yeah.
the 6
Whatever
month
it's
book.
called. Yeah. So they've changed kind of the way that the game is played. So the last season featured monsters. This season features battle line. And if there's a lot to do around, you know, battle line units that do not have mounts and have 4 wounds or less. And so it's been interesting to try to figure out a list based on our extremely limited play of Age of Sigmar. But I'm excited. It'll be fun. I think Trace and I have put together a list that will at least be fun to play, even if we get our teeth kicked in Nova. So
They just added more tickets to that too. So
nice.
If we get smashed, we get smashed.
That's right. It'll be just like it was the last time, where we win some and we lose some, and it's all good.
I always chalk that up as a win for us if we get one win.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If we go 1 and 2, I'm totally happy. Perfectly valid. So yeah, and then in the online league, I played Headcrackers, so the Mad Mob, trying to make something happen there, and it has not happened. But had a couple of good games in the past couple of weeks. So got to play Baconborn of the Determined Effort blog this past week. So that was a lot of fun because I had not ever played him before. So, but that's about it. That's all I've got going on. I am looking forward to Nova. It'll be fun to get, 5 days of games in, but I'm with you, Jason. I don't know. We don't get a lot of championship practice in. Also, I have to learn how to play Age of Sigmar again. And then Marvel Crisis Protocol will just be fun. And that's one where it won't matter. I'll probably just get my teeth kicked in every game I play.
Laugh about it. Go to the next game.
Yep. But that was fun. Let's go grab a beer.
Yeah.
Because we still have an hour left before the next round.
Well, at least you guys are in a position that you've played the game, because I'm signed up to play Kill Team on Thursday, and I have yet to finish a game of Kill Team. I don't know if I'm going to go through with that event. Might just chum it up.
Yeah. You can hang out with me and Trace while we play Age of Sigmar.
Oh, that sound. You know what? That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I can't think of anything more exciting than watching 4 people play a miniatures game.
It would be for a little bit, but not the whole time.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
Yeah, the other thing that I forgot to mention that I've been really digging lately, and it's not, it's kind of hobby adjacent, and that is Chaos Gate, the game on the PC with the Grey Knights. It's for anyone that's not familiar, so you play as the Grey Knights, and it's very similar to XCOM, or like a turn-based, squad-based game. It has all the cool things of like finding weapons or getting weapons, armor, different recruits, and you kind of fight around this galactic map, fighting Nurgle's wonderful rot. And the story is very good. It's very gripping, but more importantly, it's really cool to just have like a connection to Grey Knight Space Marines. So like, I got one guy that's in power armor and has a big old sword, and another one that has the falchions, and another one that jumps around everywhere with his teleportation pack. And it's a lot of fun. I've learned over the last week though, because I'm kind of like, I want to go through the entire mission, I want to kill all the enemies, and I don't want to have anyone take any damage. Well, this game has great pacing where sometimes you just got to run through the map, take your lumps, and complete the objective and get teleported the hell out of there, because there is no way that you're going to defeat everything that's on the map. So it's really been fun. So.
That's cool. Yeah, I should probably pick that up at some point, but I should probably make sure I have everything painted for Nova before I do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can customize their name, customize emblems.
I know. You don't have to sell me on it, Jason. I'm already sold. So, well, cool. Well, yeah, I think we're all caught up now. So with that, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will review the Patient Lurkers Rivals deck.
Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. Because right now we're going to talk about the Patient Lurkers deck. And I think this one's got some pretty interesting style changes, I guess, from what we've traditionally seen with some of the Patient Lurker or the other Rivals decks so far. But I think we'll let the cards talk for themselves about, what exactly you're going to want to be doing with this deck. So, guys, let's kick it off with the objectives. And Jason, can you tell me like what particular card you think might be a good? If you're sitting at the table the first round, what do you want to see in your hand? Tell me one card that you want to see in your hand.
Like anyone, just like out of all my cards, what card do I want to see? What objectives do you want to see?
He did say objective.
He did. Just picking on you. So yeah, like here we sit with yet another White Dwarf Rivals deck, which I'm super fortunate and super lucky to have. And the card I'm looking for to kick it all off, Trace.
Yep.
Is Lead from the Rear.
That's not leading at all, though.
Well, it's not, because you're supposed to lead from the front. But this time I'm going to lead for the rear. And the reason I want this one on this deck is because I feel that turn one, this is the most controllable. Like, let's face it, most warbands, their leader needs to do work. Like, they're typically one of the best fighters in that warband. And the reason I want it is because if he's going to be in the rear, it's turn one. I can control where I place him. I can control where I deploy him, so that can make this card much easier to score. And then the rest of the game, I get to use him, and I don't have to worry about his positioning to score this later in the game.
So for those who don't know, Lead from the Rear is a dual objective. And it says, score this in an end phase if your leader is the friendly fighter furthest from each enemy fighter, and one or more friendly fighters are in enemy territory or in no one's territory. So it's very easily controllable, like you said, Jason. I think that's a good shout for, like, if you want to have something that you know that you can control in your hand. I think that's a good one to start with. Jerod, what about you? Is there an objective that you like?
Yeah, so one thing of note in this Rivals deck is that it does only have 3 surges. And one of those surges is very popular in championship play, and it's one that you're going to want, is Contest of Equals. So this is a surge. Score this immediately after a failed attack action if the attack roll and defense roll had the same number of successes. And it is important to note, this is in the designer's commentary, that 0 is in fact a number. So if you fail your attack and I fail my defense roll, or vice versa, I can still score this. And it's one of those objectives that you can score during your opponent's activation, which is actually pretty economical. Kind of helps you get through the deck and things like that. And it is extremely popular in championship play right now. And the game is very interactive. So despite the fact that, there's been some resurgence in hold feature tokens, there's still a lot of interaction required to just play the game. And it is the game of arena combat. So, people like to roll dice. I like to roll dice.
Go arena it up.
I think it fits. People are
You
going to
like
be
to
rolling
roll
dice at some
one
point.
single defense die is what you like to roll.
It is,
And then
and crit
And then
that
roll a crit it.
Yep. like 3 times in a row so that Wallop doesn't die.
Crit you.
That happened to me the other night, and I wasn't playing against you. I'll just have you know.
Oh, nice.
It was bad, but
It's
it's
good to
fine.
know that it's not just me.
No, it definitely happened.
Yeah.
It was like 4 or 5 attacks in a row that happened.
That's painful.
It'll
Yeah.
happen. I think, Jerod, you mentioned the 3 surges, and I think this is a great point to kind of bring up now. It is light in surges. I don't believe we have any other deck or Rivals format deck that has 3. I could be wrong, but
Wormspat.
oh, there you go. Wormspat has 3. But I think the reason that this works here is because how passive the rest of the deck is, right? If it had 5 surges and then stacked with the end phase scoring, it could make for a very passive, non-interactive match in Rivals. So I'm not it stinks, and I don't know if I really like the fact that it has 3 surges, but it makes sense to me in my head. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for the designer of the deck. So John Bracken is one of the game designers, and I can't imagine that he would want to build a Rivals deck that doesn't have any interaction and is able to score everything. So, and we'll see this will come up in the next deck, but I can't remember the name of the card now, but the surge that's also super popular, Sudden
Shadow.
Revelation.
Yeah.
So just scoring for flipping 2 feature tokens.
You
Like
could
that
have very
would be-
easily put that in this deck. and
Yeah,
then-
he could have, but that's going to provide a negative play experience, and I don't think
agreed.
that the designers want. I think they want some interaction. So yeah, that's a good point, Jason.
So bring us home on the last objective that we want, Trace. What's the third one?
So the one that kind of stands out to me, if you're looking at your first hand, your perfect first hand, for me, I think the third card that you're going to want is Lost in Shadow, which is another duel. And it says score this in an end phase if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and 1 or more enemy fighters are each in a cover hex. With the way that the interactivity is with a lot of these warbands and decks now, and just the way the game plays, I don't think it's a far stretch to think that your opponent is going to want to be in a cover X in your territory, or it doesn't even have to be in your territory; it just has to be in a cover hex altogether. So they might get into a cover hex and be seeking to flip that one over. so on and so forth. So I think it's just a good play, especially considering the fact that it's 2 glory. If you can get it's not unreasonable to think that you could score all 3 of these and have 4 glory just sitting in the bank. And you don't even have to kill anybody, right? So I think that's a really good solid kickstart to the deck. So so that's our game plan as far as the objectives go. But I think a lot of where you're going to get the power from this deck is obviously in the power deck. So let's kick that off as well. Jerod, why don't you start us off on this one? I think there's some good gambits and there's some good upgrades, but we'll get to the upgrades in just a minute. Yeah. So tell us your top gambit.
Yeah, so surprising no one, I'm going to pick the push card. There's a theme there. So Shadow Lore. So this is a gambit. Choose one friendly fighter, pick one, push that fighter 1 hex towards the nearest cover hex, or pick the nearest feature token in an empty hex and move that token 1 hex towards that fighter. So you can either push your fighter onto a cover hex, or you can pull a feature token underneath your fighter. And there are myriad uses there. Like pushing a fighter is always nice, either to set something up so that you can be standing either in a cover hex or potentially on an objective later. But like it's really cool if you charge somebody that's on a feature token and you fail that attack or whatever, and then you just shimmy that feature token right underneath you, which is going to help set up, other objectives for the deck. So.
Yeah, and this is just to kind of give another use, which would be very hard to do, but given the fact that this is the only push or movement style gambit in the deck, the second interaction of this is pick the nearest feature token in an empty hex and move that token 1 hex towards this, like that fighter, the fighter that you're choosing. This is the only way that you have to manipulate the board, and you could, in theory, pull a feature token underneath an enemy fighter. So when it comes to like Chum in the Waters or Lost in Shadow, you could set this up. Once again, the board state would have to be perfect because you don't have any other pushes to get people around. But I think it is critical, if they're not standing on those feature tokens, that this could help you.
There's also some other positioning cards in this, like positioning objectives in this deck that, require you to have 2 fighters adjacent to the same fighter or something like that. So I think that's another reason why this card is a good pick. Jason, why don't you tell us about your top gambit?
So because I want to make sure that I'm set up for the future, I want Suffocating Mists. Only because I think that card is vital to scoring Chum the Waters. I want to make sure that I have it in hand round 1, so whenever that objective comes up, I can score it.
Yeah.
But also too, if I'm sitting back in my territory, it allows me to maybe plink away at them early in the game.
Okay, good. I also like to kind of plan for the future a little bit. So I chose Dark Epiphany because that card says, it's a gambit and says draw 1 power card for each friendly fighter in a cover hex, then discard that many power cards. So while this does, the only negative to this is that you're being asked to discard whatever you draw as well, which is kind of crappy, but you can at least adapt potentially what you're trying to score by having this draw card in your hand. You can potentially draw into a card that will help you score something if you don't draw into one of those 3 objectives that we're talking about on the first turn or in any turn. Just being able to card draw is always a good option for you too. So that was my pick. I do think that there's one additional gambit that we need to talk about, because I just think it's got a lot of flexibility, especially for some of the other cards in this deck that you want to try and score, and that's Leech Strength. Can we talk about Leech Strength for just a second?
Yes. Let's.
I was waiting for y'all to say no.
No. This
So-
card is garbage. No, we don't talk about it.
So Leech Strength is one of those wall of text cards. When you look at it, it's got a lot of verbiage on there. This says choose one friendly fighter and one enemy fighter adjacent to that fighter. In the next activation, the chosen friendly fighter's range 1 attack actions have a damage characteristic equal to the highest damage characteristic of the chosen enemy fighter's attack actions. So I just think that this is a good way to take a fighter that would be fairly unassuming, right? And you can somehow get them next to somebody else. But they may have a 3 dice attack, but it's damage 1. And they're going into like, I don't know, Moloch,
or
Black
Rothgor.
Powder, Rothgorn, somebody big. And you basically take that damage 4 attack, and now you've got a 3 dice damage 4 attack. It does require a little bit of setup. But I think it's just an interesting interaction and gives some on-demand damage, whereas doesn't require glory or anything to equip that. So,
yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
I think it's utility, and I think I want to tie it back into the card you picked before in Dark Epiphany. This being a Rivals deck, if you're playing it just, as a Rivals, you're going to run into situations where you're searching for tools. And I think that's why that draw card is so important, because in certain matchups, I don't care about Leech Strength, right?
Right.
So let me discard that and get another tool that I actually need.
Yeah.
But the fact that it is Rivals, so which means that unless you're playing Essentials, there is not that much plus damage. This could be really crucial to getting to 3-4 damage. And you accompany that with a push or a step between the shadows, and now look at me. I'm swiping away.
And it's just worth noting too that like it's not an attack action, so like you could give it to Bat Squig, right? Like you could choose Bat Squig or something like that. It's just I think it's pretty versatile. It's not. It's very dependent on what you're going after, but I just think it's an interesting card.
Yeah, and note that the attack doesn't have to target whoever's strength you just leeched.
That's correct.
Right, so you could like pull like a damage 4 off of Kanan or something, and then go after another fighter.
Yep. If you don't think that you can connect and get all of the damage through to kill whatever fighter is adjacent to you, if there's another fighter adjacent to you, you can do the same to that fighter and get yourself an additional glory, and that's how we win the game. So
That's right.
And glory is what you need to put on upgrades, which is what we're going to talk about next. So
Nice transition.
I'll go first on this one, since you guys have taken turns to go first for the other ones. But I think my favorite one is Dark Strength. So +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 attack actions if this fighter is in a cover hex. There's a lot of cover hexes in this game, and if you're on an objective, you can flip it over and it becomes a cover hex. So I just think that in a format where there is not a lot of plus damage, having a plus damage card in any capacity is pretty good. So that is my pick. It's simple and straightforward and allows you to kill your enemies. So Jason, how about you? What's your top?
Damage.
Great.
Kill them all. So
Yeah.
And if you have that, so if you have Dark Strength, I really want Cursed Cutlass. I think it's a really cool weapon upgrade. It gets me up to 4 dice, so 4 fury for 2 damage. It makes the fighter a brawler, The only negative is that the bounty gained when an enemy fighter is taken out of action by this attack action, it is spent glory unless you're in a feature token. But this deck wants me to be sitting in my territory on feature tokens, so why not give them an awesome attack action upgrade for 4 dice?
Yeah, it's 4 swords, range 1, and 2 damage. So if you can cover that with, if you can also combo that with Dark Strength and be on a feature token, now you're hitting for 3 damage, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I mean, there's a card in here too that wants me to be a brawler, and I'll live for the fight. So if that attack action is made by a brawler, each attack action made by them, and the next activation step is +1 dice, right? So, if I have someone that has scything, granted that attack action doesn't, but it's just good to have additional dice for them.
Yeah.
So additional dice, additional damage. Sounds like what we typically will go for top upgrades. Anyway, Jerod, what about you?
Ferocious Bite. So just a generic +1 dice to this fighter's range 1 attack actions. Seems pretty straightforward. Extra accuracy is always nice, but it's +2 dice to this fighter's range 1 attack actions instead if this fighter is a beast. So
what a beast.
Yep. So all those fighters that have maybe not so accurate attacks, but could do 1 or 2 damage, adding some extra additional accuracy there. This could be really useful if it's paired with Leech Strength. So if you have a fairly inaccurate beast, you could take a high damage and get extra accuracy, and I think it's very different.
Yep. And it only requires 1 glory because Leech Strength is a gambit and not an upgrade, which is
That's
nice.
Right.
Did we have any other cards that we thought were interesting but don't necessarily make our top 3 in this category?
Yeah, I think Dark Intellect. I will throw that one out there. So this is a upgrade reaction. Use this after an activation step in which you drew 1 or more power cards. If this fighter is in a cover hex, roll 1 magic dice on a roll of a channel. Draw 1 more power card. And again, this being a Rivals deck that may not have all the synergies you're looking for in the deck, anytime you can draw through that is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's just a reaction, so like it's easy to draw a power card and then know that you may get a chance to draw another. That's a great 2-for-1 wombo.
Yeah.
So that's nice. So we've talked about kind of what you're wanting to do with some of these cards and kind of the overall gist of the deck so far. What kind of boards are we looking to play on?
You definitely want some cover hexes. There's a lot in here that requires cover hexes.
Yeah.
Whether that's Dark Strength or Phantom Spear or the Cursed Cutlass. So being able to attack from or be in cover hexes is going to be nice.
Yeah, I agree.
That's like Profane Larder, Oblivion's Pillars. Because, in the current season, when you put the feature tokens down, they start as cover hexes as well. So if you can just flood your side of the board with cover hexes, that may even help with Chum the Waters.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I mean, anytime you have objectives in here that say be in a cover hex, be on objectives, you want to try and maximize the number of those that you can. So that's a good shout. What about play style? Jason, what do you think about play style?
Yeah, and how
are we supposed to win with this?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to the board selection too. Why do we want those cover hexes that are just innately in our territory? Is because this is a passive deck. Like this deck it is the counter to invading aggro. We want the enemy to come to us, be standing on feature tokens, and strike back, right? So we do want some interaction. There are some cards that score for standing next to people and looming threat and inseparable, but we want them to come to us. We want to play the long game. It also ties into the objective Lucky Find, which is, it's a score 1 glory if you have a map upgrade equipped, and we have Waterlogged Map, and we also have Encrusted Key, which doesn't score the map one, but it is giving you an additional glory in the end of the game. So there is a lot of glory to be had in this deck, as long as we're safe in our little territory, our home. There's only one objective that wants us to be in enemy territory. So
it seems like a very counter-punchy deck, right? Like you're just kind of waiting and doing your thing, and then whenever the other warbands who probably are aggressive are coming into your territory, you're just kind of lying in wait, being a patient lurker, and then punching them.
That's right.
So I like it. I think it's a cool twist on what we've seen so far from the Rivals decks that we've had already. So if you're playing against this, what are you trying to do?
You got to stay out of cover hexes and feature tokens. So one of the 3 surges, you score immediately, lured in, score this immediately after an enemy fighter on an objective token in your territory is taken out of action. So just don't be on an objective token in enemy territory, and you're robbing them of one of their 3 surges. And then it also blocks 2 more of the objectives. So Lost in Shadow and Chum the Waters, if you're not on cover hexes or feature tokens or whatever.
Yeah, and the only one you're going to give up is Sinking Feeling. Like they're going to score that, but
that's 1 glory.
It's 1 glory,
and you've denied them 5. So,
yeah. So, what warband are we choosing if we're trying to use this deck?
So I think you need a lot of fighters, right? Like I don't think a 3-fighter warband is quite going to cut it, because you got to be on some hexes, and then you want some good action economy when it comes to mobility. So the ability to move fighters around. So, like I think about Thorns of the Briarqueen with the push. I think about the Cunning Crew with their move reaction. Anything that's going to let you move or get multiple fighters where you want them in a single activation is probably going to be pretty good.
Thundrix Profiteers is good too because of the ability to be able to touch people while you're still on objectives or whatever.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's
damage.
Good. Yeah.
Blink away some damage, and then when they try and get close to you, then you can bust out the range 1 stuff that boosts your damage and stuff like that.
And it's Thundrix. I'm so backwards on who's got what, but Thundrix doesn't have a functioning Rivals deck, right?
Correct.
I do not.
So that's a good way to bring them into Rivals or get to play a warband.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jason, what about you? Do you have any hot picks for this warband?
Did you mention? Yeah. Did you mention Grimwatch, Jerod?
I did not. No, that's a good shout.
Yeah. So I think Grimwatch don't want you in their territory anyway, right? So they pushing them out and getting them inspired. Grimwatch would be good. You have some upgrades in the Phantom Spear and the Cutlass to do a little more damage. And then I like Lady Harrow with this as well, just because I have 2 dodge, so it's a little bit easier for me to survive. Mm-hmm. Once the lady is inspired, which if you're coming to me, I'm probably going to be able to fly over you and inspire. She has the push if you don't attack her, which really is going to help me either get onto a feature token, or maybe I can score Inseparable or Looming Threat a little bit easier because now I have an innate push. As well as they are very good at counterpunching, because once they inspire, they hit fairly well. Yeah. And the last one, I'll leave you with this. Oh, wait, do you want to ask me something about?
I was going to ask you this probably.
No, go ahead.
So we want a lot of fighters. There's one warband in this game that has the most fighters of everybody, and that's Zarbag's Gits. They have
and they do have Scurry.
They have movement shenanigans to get on the objectives pretty easy. But I think the counterpoint is going to be you're going to have to really be conscious of you bleeding glory. Because
Yeah, like
go ahead.
gets get better when you can inspire, right? With the 2
Correct.
dodge. So
Yeah.
and with 3 surges, you're probably not inspiring turn 1.
Yeah. No.
No. But they do have 2 beasts, and the 2 beasts are actually pretty tasty as far as their attacks go because they both have cleave
That's true.
when they inspire. So you get +2 dice on those from the card that we highlighted earlier.
Just
There's
that Drizzt.
yeah, I mean, I think they have the tools to make the deck work. I do think that it'll be a closer game than it would be with some of these other warbands, though.
Yeah, my secret that I didn't talk in the pre-show that I think fits this deck fairly well, and it definitely fits the way that I played them back in Nova many years ago, and that is the skeletons.
Sepulchral Guard.
Oh yeah,
Sepulchral
Guard.
And
you'd have the same problem though.
We have the same problem, but you have access to double move, right? The Warden wants to stay in the back anyway.
Yeah.
And then when you come in to try to chew up my champion or harvester, you've now given me a fighter that I can go attack with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Granted, once you get through the front line,
Yeah.
They also don't have
the old
functioning
Warden on
rivals
his
deck,
his
so-
single dodge.
yeah.
They don't have a rivals deck anyway, so that's a good call.
Yeah.
As same with Zarbag, same with Thundrick.
Yeah.
The Lady Harrow one though, I feel like you're just taking Lady Harrow's deck. You're not doing this one.
You are, but
It's an option.
It's an option.
Like, it is an option, but I think that's the wrong option if you do it.
The Sepulchral Guard too, they got the wombo combo of the Harvester being a brawler and having scything, so now I get my extra dice with the card, and I can.
It's true.
It's
scythe
range 1
away.
too, right?
And by the way, so I didn't bring this up, but Leech Strength says that the damage applies to all attack actions in the next activation.
Yeah.
Oh man, give me that. Yep, let's do it up, Harvester.
So go Leech a Strength 3 attack from somebody, and then go Scythe for 3 damage on 5 dice or whatever nonsense you're going to get out of that.
And can I just say that that's why I love like the rivals and the White Dwarf releases. Like I get it, right? Like they're not for everybody. We'll get to this one, what struggles with when we talk about the new player rating, but it just like for the veteran player in our meta where everyone loves rivals, like now I can grab Sepulchral Guard and go out there and have a good time, or I can grab Grimwatch or Lady Harrow. Because Trace, you remember, like locally, like there was a bad experience playing Lady Harrow's rivals deck.
Oh yeah.
And now I can play it, and it's a little more balanced.
Yep.
No, 100%. So you brought it up. So let's talk about what the new player rating for this warband is. I personally give it a bronze, and we'll talk about why in a minute.
Oh yeah, it's
a bronze.
It's bronze all.
It's bronze
all day.
So let's talk about the reason why it is bronze, at least from the play style point of view. This is not an easy play style to do, to sit there and just be patient and like hope that they do what you want them to do. And although it does have the tools to do the job, you need the right cards in your hand at the right time to pull some of those things off. And so those two things together, for me, I think it's a very engaging and interesting deck to play. But I do think that it's going to require a little bit on card draw. As to how well you do with it. The passive scoring on the objectives and stuff is good. Sometimes you just need to have people next to fighters. Sometimes you might need to kill one fighter. I think there's only one card in here that requires you to actually kill a fighter, maybe 2. But overall, you just need to roll some dice and maybe miss an attack or have all successes. But I think that the playstyle itself is going to be harder for somebody who's just starting to wrap their head around.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
When we all first started, we just wanted to run at each other and roll dice and smash people. Like that's kind of the way that we played. And I think that that's pretty consistent with how somebody who might be transitioning from like a board game over to this would be.
Yeah. Jason brought up a really good point in the pre-show.
Yeah.
How many sets do you need?
Yeah, the other point is just access to the deck, right? So the deck is 5 different sets. So you're going to have the Harrow Deep starter set. You're going to have Black Powders. You're going to have the Exile Dead, the Nethermaze. Oh, and then one of my favorite, Illusory Might.
Illusory Might, yeah.
So it's going to require you to have all previous season. That's what it does. It requires you to have all previous season plus the current core set. Now, which is not the cheapest of investments.
Nope.
And it's actually 6. So I counted 5, but it's 6.
Yeah.
New player rating for Rivals. It's not very new player friendly, right?
No, it is not.
Yeah. And that's not to really comment about the power level of the deck. It's just the play style and the access to it.
For new players, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what about Rivals Plus? There's some pretty saucy cards in this deck that you can combine with some other warbands, I think, to get some nice little wombo combos off. What do you guys think about this deck as a supplement for a Rivals Plus format?
Jason, what do you think, bud?
You throwing it to me again? I feel like I've talked this whole segment.
I feel like Trace has talked this whole segment.
So Rivals
I'm leading
Plus,
the segment,
right? For Rivals Plus, it's tough because of the 3 surges.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, how do you pick this to build with when you're only going to have your in faction and these 3 to pick from? And Lured In, I'm not taking that I can't think of any reason I want to take that unless I have just a ton of pushes to control it. Contest to Equals and Unequal Contest are very good cards to have as surges. So maybe you do. And then the end phase, I can pick like Chum in the Waters, Lost in the Shadow, Lead from the Rear because it's controllable if I get it early. Like there is some choices there, which are okay. But it's just the surges that make it difficult to pick it. Then once I get into the gambits and upgrades, it is viable. What I do like and what would swing me over the 3 objectives is now I have access to illusions without taking the full Rivals deck. Right? So I can get Bloodrack Mask, which is useful if I want to play an aggro warband and have someone.
Spear is really good.
Yeah, and the Spear is really good for tooling up a fighter that may not have access to 2 damage. You can do it turn 1. So I do like that aspect of selecting this to build with.
Yeah.
Jerod, do you have any additional thoughts?
No, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, I mean it's going to be one where you feel like your warband is missing 2 surges and then a handful of like a push or a illusion, but I don't think it's going to be one.
So if you think about it from this perspective, right? Like if you've got a warband that's got some pretty solid surges, but not a lot of good end phase stuff.
Yeah,
I think this is a good supplement for you, just from because those end phase they're not brilliant, but they may be better than something that you have in your regular deck. I think I do think it's a good supplement, but I also think that you're basically opening yourself up to a lot of the cards that you would have in like a championship format anyway.
The hardest part is overcoming essentials, right? With any time that we talk about Rivals Plus is I'm weighing it with does it outpace the cards I want from essentials?
Yeah.
And it's close, I really wish that Essentials wasn't in the conversation, because then you would find more uses for the deck, and it pairs well with the ones that we listed for just who's going to run the Rivals deck.
Yeah.
Like this
Right.
complements Lady Harrow, their deck with
Very
this.
well.
Very.
Oh yeah. Because they want to stand on some objectives. They want to move through some cover. They want to move through some block Texas and stuff. So like, they've got a lot of good tools to complement these cards. And then Thundrix, I think too, does.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
you run the thing like Thundrix can also run really good Supremacy, right? And then go back to Essentials. Or when you talk about Gits, you have Infestation and Making a Statement, right? Like those combos are probably stronger. So
yeah, that's fair. Quite fair. Well, thank you for your patience during this segment. So we are going to take a break, and we will be lurking until we come back in just a moment.
All right, I'm back, and I'm flipping open the pages of my White Dwarf, and we are ready to talk about Vainglorious Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm so glad you're leading this section, because I do not want to follow Vainglorious with the word Raiders, and so I'm just going to do everything I can for the rest of the episode to avoid saying the name of this deck.
Why?
Because there's a really good movie that starts almost Vainglorious, and it's not what we're here to talk about.
No,
No,
we're not.
We're here to talk about raiding.
Raiding. Invading aggro. So, going to review the second deck in this White Dwarf, and this is in my opinion, a good one. I think it's really good. Really, really good. I'm gonna see how many times I can say good. Now, all kidding aside, glad to be back and talking about this one. We're gonna start right out, jump right in, get into the objectives. This deck does have 5 surges. So unlike the last one, we have a large selection. So, gentlemen, what would you like to take in your first hand to start your Vainglorious Glory train?
So I think the first one we want is Sudden Revelation. So I don't know if we've actually talked about this card on the podcast. Probably not. Probably not, because it's not in any other Rivals deck.
Well, let's have a revelation then.
Let's do it. So this is a surge. Score this immediately after a power step in which your warband flipped 2 or more feature tokens in that power step. That's it. Just got to flip 2 tokens. And it is part of the rule set that flipping a cover hex into a cover hex still counts as flipping. So
a gloom feature.
A gloom feature token. Yes, not a cover hex. You're correct. A gloom feature token into another gloom feature token still counts as flipping, because you are physically picking up the token and flipping it over, even though both sides are the same. So
Who knew?
It's pretty easy to score, and it is one of the few surges that requires no interaction with your opponent. So, it's
solid.
It's pretty tough for your opponent to stop. It's pretty tough for you to stop if your opponent has it, and it's a really good way to get some easy seed glory going. So, and it is wildly popular in championship play right now. So it makes sense that it would be one that you would want in your hand for a Rivals game as well.
And it fits almost every warband.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Every warband has at least 2 fighters. Yep.
All right. That glory scoring was sudden. It was revealing. It was delving. There was a revelation. What am I going to score next, Trace?
Well, now that you've fearlessly gone into your opponent's territory to potentially flip 2 tokens towards the end of your turn, I like Fearless Seekers. This is a end phase score, which is score this in an end phase if 2 or more friendly fighters are on feature tokens in enemy territory. You don't have to be on objectives. You've already made yourself clear that you're going to try and flip these 2. So once you've moved and you are able to stick on them by the end of the turn, you're going to get 2 glory for it, which is just some tasty synergy, I feel like. especially for a rivals deck. Like setups like that don't happen in a lot of the faction decks, so I think that's pretty good. And everybody's wanting to be aggressive and get into enemy territory, so I think that this fits this deck nicely.
Yeah.
It's 2 glory, which is big.
It is 2 glory, and you can really, really set this card up when you deploy and are setting feature tokens onto the board. You're looking to get an objective over the line, and then you can just follow up with your placed Gloom Hex like right next to it, which makes Fearless Seekers a really good first turn end phase score.
Yep.
Very popular in Championship. One of my favorite cards because it really drives the engagement of the game. So you're scoring good glory, but yet your opponent can come out and touch you. And that leads us to the final objective that I'm looking for in our first hand. We've talked about it before, but contest the equals. Surge, score this immediately after a failed attack action if the attack roll and defense roll have the same number of successes. It's a great objective given the interaction in the game right now. I'm probably running across and, with the charge, so there's a chance to score it there. And then because I'm standing in enemy territory trying to score Fearless Seekers, I'm probably getting attacked back, so there's a chance to score it there as well. Really good flow in those first 3 objectives, and it doesn't stop there. Like there are a lot of solid objectives that play into that. For example, Shadow Elimination. If I'm going across with my leader, now I just have to flip a objective token, and wham bam, I get another glory after the power step. So,
and I just want to drop this in here too. If you're in the end phase and you're on 2 feature tokens that you've flipped, and you have Extraordinary Revelation in your hand, you get another 3 glory. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more friendly fighters are each holding an objective in enemy territory. If you manage to get on 2 objectives, could be really good.
Could be good.
We just went from that sudden revelation to an extraordinary revelation.
Yes.
Oh. Suddenly extraordinary.
Yeah, and we'll get into the gambits, which really can help you support the extraordinary revelation to score. Some really cool tricks in there. Again, this deck has 19 total glory, so I think that's one of the higher Rivals decks that we've seen so far. So we're off to a good start. But we need some tools to help us score that and win the day. And we always start with the gambits. So Trace, we have our objectives. We kind of have our first round, what our play style was. What gambits can support us in doing that?
So if we're talking about supporting gambits for the first turn, Dark Conversion seems like a really solid pick for me. Pick 2 feature tokens in empty hexes. Place each feature token in a hex. In the hex the other feature token was in that you picked them. So you're basically swapping two feature tokens, and that could be a Gloom token that you placed with an objective token that you placed to help set up the score that we just talked about. It could be, it's really strong. Like being able to just kind of pick 2 and adjust them how you see fit. Yeah. It makes those placed Gloom tokens very, very flexible. So really good card.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen this level of board state manipulation in any Rivals deck to date. So
no.
Pretty big
Not
deal.
in a true Rivals deck. I think the Dwarves actually have one that they can switch.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're not a true Rivals deck because they don't have enough cards to be a Rivals deck. So
right.
Yeah, when you really start to sharpen the pencil with this deck, that Dark Conversion is probably going to help you stop scoring of your opponent more than anything else.
Yeah.
It really hinders you in Championship for those that are playing. It's a great card.
Yeah.
Get it in there.
Being able to rip an objective token and turn it into a Gloom token is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, especially if you're playing an objective based warband or a feature token based warband, you can, in theory, end up with 4 objectives on your side of the board.
Right.
So now supremacy is a lot
Really
easier.
in play.
Yeah, dominant position becomes a lot easier to score.
Or even making the statement on the other side, right? Like, so if there's
Yeah.
only one objective on the other side and you control it, like it's real easy to get making a statement. So
Yeah.
All right, Jerod, what's the next one?
Yeah, so we like Reckless Rush. So there are 2 cards in here that boost movement, but we picked Reckless Rush because it doubles the move characteristic of the first friendly fighter to make a move action, and it is an unrestricted move action. So it could be a move action that is part of a charge action. So, suddenly you've got, an inspired Morgok running 8 hexes in. You've got Skaith from the Wild Hunt charging 10 hexes. There's a lot to love there. There is a downside. You do have to deal 1 damage to and then stagger the fighter afterwards. But, the fighters I mentioned, that's purely aggro, right? Somebody that you want to charge in and crump somebody. But it's also because it'll allow you to go in and maybe grab a token that wasn't necessarily available without being able to double your move characteristic. So
Yeah, right. And ideally, you use that in the last activation of the turn to get something, scooch onto something, attack someone,
score some glory.
And if you have to use it early, I can't really help you with the damage, Jerod. But to get rid of that stagger token, you can, also double up on a lead advance and give them a guard token and take that stagger token off. So
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
man, all the synergies in this bad boy.
I know it's like the more we talk about it, the better it sounds.
And then the last card I want to call out here for opening hand is got one of the best artwork cards in the set, in my opinion, the Nethermaze core set, and that's Step Between the Shadows. It's choose 1 friendly fighter in a cover hex that has no move or charge tokens. Place the chosen fighter in a different cover hex and give them 1 move. So we've seen cards like this in the past with what is it, Illusionary? No, my goodness, what's the one you would run and then come all the way back from season 1?
Illusionary Fighter.
Illusionary Fighter. There you go.
Yeah.
It can be used like that, so you can be in enemy territory and pull yourself back. But I think most commonly what you're going to use it for is you're going to pair that with a card that we didn't mention in Shadow Lure. Because can you believe it? For the first time ever in a Rivals review, we didn't mention a push in the Gambit roll.
I know. It's painful.
It's painful, but Shadow Lure is still there, still very useful. So you probably pair it with that, get on into a cover hex, and fling yourself across the board. And if you are Kanan, like the artwork shows, your opponent's probably like, oh crap, like I'm in it now.
Yeah.
It also sets up a lot of the scoring that you want, like whether it's Fear of the Seekers or Extraordinary Revelation, Masters of the Abyss. It sets up a lot of it, or even Shadow Elimination if you have to get further into the territory. It's a really, really useful teleport card.
Yeah.
Do we miss anything? Reckless.
Well,
Rush,
so you mentioned Shadow Lure, right? So that's you can either push yourself or you can pull a feature token. There's also Sikkim, which is a push. So you have to push closer to the enemy, but that's pretty easy to set up. And then there's also Swarming Darkness. Another one that allows you to manipulate the board state, so you can move a feature token, or you can flip a feature token. So
you're really
also audacious move and live for the fight in King of the Deeps too.
Yeah,
just name them all.
And that's it. We named them all because they're all pretty good.
Yeah, it really, like, the Gambits do have it. You have your basic formula, right? Like we have a bunch of pushes, we have some shenanigans, board state shenanigans, accuracy. The only thing we're really missing is what?
Damage.
Oh
Just
yeah,
damage really.
But that'll come in the upgrades, right?
Oh, one would hope.
One would hope. So let's move on to the upgrades. Jerod, give me my damage, please.
Okay, well, how about instead of adding damage to my attacks, I reduce damage from your attacks with Dark Majesty.
Okay, so maybe I get more attacks. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
What do you
so
got?
-1 damage from range 1 attack actions that target this fighter to a minimum 1 if this fighter is in a cover hex. So this card by itself maybe not the best, but there is so much in this deck that either wants you to be in a cover hex or allows you to get into a cover hex pretty easily that I think it fits, and I think it's going to be those ones, and one of the ones that we like. And like you said, Jason, it doesn't add damage, but it keeps you alive longer, lets you make multiple attacks. So
speaking of keeping dudes alive longer, the card I like is Nether Defense.
Gotta defend the Nether.
I mean, nothing. You have to protect the Nethers at all times.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than getting kicked in the Nethers.
Yeah.
So this card pairs with Dark Majesty beautifully, because in addition to having -1 damage to attacks that are coming towards you, this one gives you +1 defense if the fighter is in a cover hex. This fighter cannot be on guard, though. So you're getting +1 defense, but, I mean, we all know that getting additional defense dice is really, really nice.
Yeah.
And pair that with a -1 damage, and you've got a really sturdy fighter that's not going to move. So,
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
So you're standing on a cover hex or a gloom hex. You're -1 damage. You're +1 defense. And why not we just give you an awesome weapon too? And
let's do it.
One of the best weapons that we've seen in Shadow Spear. Now, you have to be standing on a cover hex to be able to use this attack action, but it's glorious. So Shadow Spear, range 2, 3 smash, 2 damage with cleave.
Oof.
It's real good.
It's real good. This is
really
like good. Again, I mean, the only bad part is I have to be on that cover, but currently in the game there is enough of that to go around.
And it's range 2, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't have to be adjacent to somebody to poke them. So, and then
solid.
We'll just save the time. Just pretend like we listed off all of the other objectives or all of the other upgrades, because I mean they're all
really good.
Pretty good. There's additional accuracy. There's more attack actions.
There's another +1 defense card.
There's some illusions.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the upgrades is it's a good mix, right? So if I have a warband that I want a single beefy fighter, I can kind of stack these, minus damage plus defense. Maybe I give them, an accuracy buff or something. But then also in the upgrades, there's enough weapon upgrades that if I do have, the minions on my warband, they're going to be effective as well. So
right.
Just good. I'm just gushing. I really like this deck.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it.
So if you're setting this up, right? Like you have all your upgrades, you have your cards, you have your objectives. What board are you going to lead with, Trace? Maybe not the name. Like, how are you going to set everything up?
I mean, this is invading aggro like you're talking about. So you want anything that has starting hexes that are as close as possible to the board edge. So as close to the midline as possible. That's, you want the shortest path to what you want to try and do. And there's several options you could choose from. Just pick your flavor of board with edge hexes and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So he mentioned invading aggro. Jerod, playstyle, anything else really to add to that?
I mean, not really. So there's actually, invading aggro. It's popular in Championship, where you come into enemy territory and then you take out fighters and hold stuff in enemy territory, and that is exactly what this deck wants to do. One thing I've noticed, you may actually want your leader to go down at some point, because you can score 2 glory if your fighter is dead and you have more glory than your opponent. So if you go first, and you can net some extra glory in that way. So yeah, rush in,
take 2 objectives, kill something.
take 2 objectives, and kill stuff,
and just bash stuff.
Yep.
So so that's my plan. That's what I'm doing. How are you gonna stop me?
So this is one where your objective feature token placement actually becomes really important. So you're going to want to try to block that easy scoring. So putting 1 feature token on your side of the board, like right on the other side of the board, right on your opponent's board, so that you're blocking out, easy stuff right on your side. And then maybe don't put down a gloom token.
That was suggestion.
Because
With
their ability to manipulate the board state and shift tokens around, and you're giving them another cover hex to stand in for things like Shadow Spear and Nether Defense and Dark Majesty. So, they're going to want to kill your leader. So they have a 2 glory surge for taking out the leader. So just keep that in mind. And keep somebody on an edge hex. It's an easy way to block 2 glory from this deck. Either on an edge hex or adjacent to a blocked hex. Either one of those.
Yeah, that's a good shout out. The thing with you saving your leader, the only thing you have to be kind of remember when playing against this deck is no one's safe, right? The Reckless Rush is double move.
Yeah.
Audacious move is +2, and then they have Step Between the Shadows. So they're coming across. So don't get too confident in hiding in the back.
That's true.
All right. So we've gone through boards, play style, how we're gonna beat it. We're just gonna stand in edge hex the whole time. Who leverages this deck the best, Trace? Like, what warbands are you curious and looking forward to trying this deck out with?
I mean, anytime we look at one of these universal decks, I'm always thinking about older warbands that don't necessarily have a Rivals deck to speak of in pure Rivals formats. So somebody like Magor's Fiends maybe seems like a pretty good shout for this, even though none of them are brawlers, but that's another topic for another day. They're sturdy, they want to hit you, and I feel like they've got enough tools. Riptooth has some movement to get you across the board to a far objective or a far enemy. He's got really good base attacks anyway. He goes to 3 damage when he's inspired, and all he has to do is hit 1 time. So they seem like a good shout as far as an older warband.
And remember, Riptooth is the bestest boy, as he can still hold objectives.
He sure
That's
can.
right. He's not a beast.
Sure can, and he's a hunter. So, and even though there's not 800 cards in this deck, but he's still a hunter. So don't forget that, folks. They add keywords to people, just not brawler. So
I'm gonna add the keyword salty to Trace tonight.
I'm not being salty. I just don't understand. They're literally the most fightiest of the fighty, and they don't put brawler on them. I don't understand at all.
Because they're not brawlers.
You're not a brawler.
Are they shot callers?
Oh.
Without some vainglorious nonsense on you in a minute if you keep making comments like that.
All right, so Fiends, what about their adjacent sisters? You like the Ravagers as well?
Yeah, same kind of concept, at least for me. They have good base stats. Problem with Kagras is just their Inspire condition, but their base stats I feel like are strong enough not necessarily have that be an issue for you. And with some of the accuracy and stuff in this deck and the additional movement, which is kind of some of their problem, is they don't have a lot of ways to get to where they need to be to get on those objectives and try and defile them, despoil them or whatever. Desecrate's the word. You know what I mean? But like
either the other two are fine options as well.
Defile, Despoil, Desecrate. There's so many chaos books rattling around in my head, and those words are used so often that they just all kind of are interchangeable for me. But all their fighters are pretty solid. The only one you might worry about would be Zarshia, but she can just camp on an objective in your backfield somewhere or do something else and just kind of plink people away with her.
Yeah, I think both of those chaos warbands make sense. Jerod, who are you looking forward to trying this deck out with?
The Wormspat.
No way, you Wormspat?
I know, right? I mean, yeah, I think that they've got some options there. It's certainly better than their own rivals deck. So,
yeah.
But we talked
hard.
about the lacking damage. I mean, that's Sepsimus is there with his range 2, 3 damage attack, and then they've got the built-in resiliency too to be able to stick around.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to be really good.
So, yeah, I think it would be fun. I'm not sure it would work the best, but I think it would be more fun than their rivals deck. So.
Yeah, and there's enough score immediately in this that they can get going, and it would be really fun to see somebody with like Dark Magistry and Nether Defense.
And an additional defense die. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can't you pump them to 4? Isn't there are 2 plus 1?
Terrifying Shadow only goes plus defense if it's a minion.
Okay, yeah, they're not minions.
So,
Dang.
Yeah. Sorry to wreck your dreams.
That'd have been broken, maybe.
Anything else? Just the Wormspat?
I mean, Skate's Wild Hunt seems like it fits their playstyle, right? They want to charge anyway.
Yeah.
So just have them charge in and go.
Chargy.
Yep.
Leverage the stuffs. Yeah. I
Who
think
do you like, Jason?
For me, I mean, I always go to Lady Hero, and I think in the pre-show too, I think it was either you or Jerod mentioned Wraith Creepers, which I didn't immediately look at Wraith Creepers because you're not going to get as much mileage out of the weapon upgrades because they already have solid weapon upgrades. But the objective deck actually, the more and more I think about it, like they are really good invading aggro with their push into enemy territory. So I think that one fits really well. And Harrow, just because you have all that move, it's easy to inspire. And we talked about it in the last segment on how well they do. The one that I'm looking forward to trying is Canaan's Reapers with it. And I don't think it's a 1-for-1 match. But what we've seen locally in the rivals is Canaan's Reapers really suffer with movement. And this kind of overcomes that. They don't have to hold objectives. They just have to be on the feature tokens. So you can still leverage their additional movement shenanigans. And then, maybe I'm not leveraging into the Nadirate as much, and I'm actually using the weapon action upgrades. And then I've already said it, Step Between the Shadows with Kanan coming across is just downright scary. And then I can give him plus defense and damage away from him. And I think it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Like you look at the other big fighters and like they're not going to leverage everything on this deck. Like Moloch can leverage some stuff. Rothcorn can do some. I think Kanan can kind of leverage it all, except Fallen Titan is probably the only one that you're not going to score with him. And then last but not least, you may be able to rock a Godsworn Hunt revival with this deck.
That could be fun.
They would be fun. They're still going to suffer from the fact that they are just glass cannons. But the fact that there is a little bit of like seed glory here, and that's really what gets Godsworn. When Godsworn can get 2 to 3 glory going, then they can snowball and you can start leveraging the fighters with the upgrades. So Shadow Elimination, Sudden Revelation definitely will kind of spark that. The biggest downside there is there is no plus damage. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's a big deal.
Well, cool. That's kind of like the warbands, and like I've been all hyped up on this deck. So what are we giving it for Rivals Plus, Jerod?
So I think it gets a silver. So wait, we skipped the new player rating.
No.
We're talking
Yeah,
about?
new player rating. My bad. I'm so excited about
the
new players.
Yeah. So for the new players, so I think it still is silver. The deck is really straightforward. Like it's not ambiguous about what you should be doing, and you have a lot of the tools that you need to score your glory. But it is invading aggro, so I mean you are going to be pushing your fighters into enemy territory. So there's a chance that you could just lose all your fighters, and it's really hard to flip tokens and hold objectives and take out leaders if you don't have any fighters left. So doesn't quite get that gold rating, but I mean it's probably like a silver gold amalgam.
Okay, good. And the keynote here is this is only built out of 2 sets, and it's the core sets.
Yes.
So unlike the last one that we reviewed, this is out of the Harrow Deep and the Nethermaze core set box. So it's really easy for new players to get these cards. And you're going to have 4 warbands. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So you get 4 warbands, and then if you like any of the warbands that we talked about before that don't necessarily have Rivals decks, you can see if you can snag one of those somewhere.
Yep. All right. So now Rivals Plus. Trace. We ruined it. It's a silver, but why is it a silver?
The reason why we think this is a silver, mostly because it's the objectives are pretty good in the Essentials pack, and there's some really good ploys, but there's not a lot of the excellent upgrades that are in the Essentials if you're comparing it directly to Essentials. You know, your static +1 damage, +1 defense, +1 move, all those things with no frills or conditions, I feel like are really good. And then there's a couple good surges that are also in Essentials too. Yeah, I think that's the reason why for me. I do think that it is on par with Essentials for the most part, as far as like utility and objectives and stuff. But the upgrades are just so good in Essentials.
Yeah.
So Jerod, you read the silver. You agree with all that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, I like the surges in this deck a lot more than those in Essentials. But it's really hard to stack up against Great Strength, Vainglory Seeker, and Fighter's Ferocity.
Yeah,
What do you?
Yeah, it is, unless I already have it in my warband or I don't care, right?
Yes.
And I think that this is the first full deck that really rivals Essentials, because of the surges. Like Contest Equals, In Cold Blood, Shadow Elimination, Sudden Revelation are really good surges. And we've talked about it before. Essentials has Strong Start and the 3 dice.
Branching Fate.
There are other ones in there that you can make work, but these 4 are like definitely can work in almost any warband. And I can still supplement losing some of the end phase scoring with Fearless Seekers. You know, Extraordinary Revelation's okay to offset some of the ones that are in Essentials. But when I get into the ploys and upgrades, I'm only missing the damage and maybe a sidestep. Like, I really like sidestep even more than Shadow Lure. Like, I just,
Yeah.
So, but all the other pieces are there, right? It has the plus dice. It has the movement stuff. It has the push stuff. So I probably could build something solid with this Raiders deck.
I think you need to look at it from this perspective too, right? Like, yeah, you have all the plus damage in the Essentials right now, but this has so many plus defensive dice and plus defensive capabilities that, like, if you want to run something that's a little bit less, I mean, you're still running aggro, but if you want to run more survivable aggro, I feel like this is your option.
Yeah, I could see that.
If you've got some good, like, solid fighters, I mean, think about like Oberyn, right? Or Steelheart. Like Steelhearts with this deck would be really good. With some of their in-faction stuff, like, I think that they could be pretty solid with this deck, honestly.
That's probably a good call out too, because if I already have the in-faction making a statement with Steelhearts, so I don't necessarily need to double down on it, and then I can take, Extraordinary Revelation. That's not a bad call. I really like it. I know that Essentials will still be the most popular in that format, just because it's most readily available and you have more cards to choose from. But I think if we continue to get Rivals decks that have these kind of options, we'll soon see Essentials just be Essentials. It's not going to be a cut above.
Yeah.
And I personally just, now that we have a bunch of Rivals decks, would like to see it go away. So it's still hard though, right? Because like we talked about the last one, there's just so many sets that you have to make that one. It's kind of hard. All right, well, that does it for the deck review. Thank you all for your input and knowledge. We are going to take a break, but I'm going to put this on the recording so we don't forget to do it. There was a reveal this past weekend for an Underworld warband, and we missed it in the intro. So we're going to do that.
Yeah, we are.
Back.
Yep.
And we're back. And before we wrap up the show, as Jason mentioned in the last segment, there was a Skirmish preview put out by GW on a Sunday, no less, at 9 in the morning Eastern time. So a pretty palatable time, I think, for most people. It wasn't like stupid early in the morning for the Brits. But in the midst of all of that, since this is a Hexed episode, there was a Witch Hunter warband announced.
What? No way.
Yes, way.
Enlighten me.
Yeah, so what's the name of it? Haskell's?
Hexbane.
Hexbane's Hunters.
Hexbane's
that's why
Hunters.
it's so fitting. It's like, this is...
Hexed, Hexbane,
There you go.
Haskell, Hexbane. So a human plus 2 doggo warband, so 6 fighters.
I need my dog.
I know you need your 2 dogs. So yeah, I mean they look awesome. It gives a very Mordheim feel, and that's pretty cool coming right off the gates of the Skittershanks Claw Pack, which also felt very Mordheim-y to me. But yeah, so there's the leader. What has he got? I gotta find the picture because
he's
not fully prepared for this. He's got what? Some pistols.
He's got a pistol and a torch. I think is that the leader?
Pistol and a torch.
Yeah, he's like I'm not prepared for this, even though he was like the one that said, "All right, ready, set, go."
I know.
So the leader, Haskell Hexbane, he's a hunter. He has 3 move, 1 block, 3 wounds. His one weapon on the card that we've seen is black powder pistols, range 3, 3 fury, 1 damage, but has Grievous.
Ooh,
and then
nice.
His Inspire as this fighter's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action. So that's really cool. That just take an enemy fighter out of action. But the really cool part that I think that I can't wait to like review the whole warband is he has this Price of Victory ability, and it says reaction. Use this after a friendly hunter is dealt damage that would take them out of action. So friendly hunter, I guess we can assume that he will have other hunters in the warband.
Yeah,
because
I would
it's
hope so.
Friendly hunter. After the out of action check, give this fighter 1 upgrade from your hand or remove 1 charge or 1 move token from this fighter. do not spend any glory points when you play that card. So like,
Whoa.
he can get Glory Seeker or holy
Yeah.
crap.
Any upgrade for free, or he can
Yeah.
remove a charge token.
Yes,
That's pretty good.
that's pretty sweet. And the card that they previewed with him is a in-faction card, Bane of Evil, that is restricted to him. And this fighter has a cumulative benefits depending on how many friendly hunters are out of action. So again, I'm assuming that there's some other hunters in the warband.
I think it's safe to assume that there will be at least 3 other hunters.
Yes, because on this card it says +1 wound if 1 is out, +1 dice to this fighter's attack actions if 2 are out, and if 3 hunters are out, +1 damage to this fighter's attack actions, and flat 1 damage on a range attack is unheard of.
Yeah.
Like range 3, we just don't see it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he would be range 3 fury for 2 damage
No.
with Grievous.
Yes.
Aren't they cumulative?
Yeah, so 4 dice.
So
range
4
3,
dice.
4 fury.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
And you're getting
With Grievous.
Yeah,
With Grievous.
With Grievous.
Like,
Yep.
it's real good.
It's really
That's
sweet.
pretty exciting.
That's real good.
And then we don't know anything else about any of the other fighters other than their pictures look awesome. There's a huge dude in some bulky armor with a giant, what looks like a fireman's axe.
Can we talk about the dude with the crossbow with the bomb on the end of it?
Yeah. The man in the iron mask.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then we've
And then
got
the repeater pistol.
some lady with a repeater pistol and a smaller fireman's axe. And then
A
not
bunch of
one,
snakes for her vampires.
but 2 doggos.
Yeah, the dogs being what appear to be mastiffs
They
Like,
do look
They're
like
really
mastiffs,
cool
yep.
looking.
is really cool because that's, I mean, if you're hunting, you're gonna have that style of dog, and this is like what I am so hyped about is it's like real humans. It's not like
Yeah.
chaotic humans. It's not like
Sigmar
reforged
humans.
humans. Like I get to play humans.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
So I don't know. I can't wait. Some of the other cards that were in the preview, there is a in-faction +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions that target a fighter with a wounds characteristic of 4 or greater. So it's in-faction Glory Seeker.
Nice.
And then it's kind of hard to read because it's a ploy and it's the one that's off to the right, so it's a little bit kind of cut off. But it says stand accused, choose 1 enemy fighter +1 dice to attack actions made by friendly fighters that target chosen fighter. This effect persists until chosen fighter is out of action or ends an activation in your territory.
Nice.
So +1
either-
dice against a bad guy,
Yep.
unless you come to me.
Yep. I love it.
Tasty.
And then the last card that was previewed was Uncover the Truth, which is an objective. Score this in an end phase if there are 2 or more friendly fighters in enemy territory.
Nice.
So, and it's got a picture of the person in the mask with the crossbow with the bomb standing in front of the dog. It's pretty sick.
They seem pretty good at face value, like from what we know right now.
I mean, and the models are just
Pretty
cool.
solid, and the models are cool.
Yeah, that price to victory. Like when I read that, I was just like, "Holy crap!" Like,
Yeah, just have an upgrade for free, or just get rid of your charge token. Yeah, it's cool to see because I mean, we've seen pure carnage, which punishes you in the end phase for taking out fighters, and we've seen blood for the blood god with fill it in, Trace.
The Blood Reavers.
Yeah, the blood reavers. But like this is the first time that like we've seen something like this potent. Because I mean because Truth Seekers had reactions on death, but
yeah,
nothing
but not
like
like
this.
that.
Not like this.
No, and the fact that he has that range too is just, I mean, there are other upgrades, and I'm not going to remember all the names of them, but there are upgrades that give you accuracy to reroll on a range 3 attack, and like it's just going to be, I don't know. I'm excited for it, and more importantly, to Trace, to your point, like the Exiled Dead came out, the Crimson Corridor out there, like there's some really cool thematic battles that can happen in this.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's
zombies and vampires, and
I like it. Cool. Anything else?
No, just hurry up and come out. I just want them.
I know, right? I know. I need the announcement date so that I can scramble to paint the Exile Dead and the Shadeborn and Skittershank's Claw Pack so that I remain caught up. Yeah, cool. So this has been episode 40. Hexed, Nethermaze Rivals Review 2, Vainglorious Raiders and Patient Lurkers, plus bonus content on the Hexbane Hunters. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm excited about Vainglorious Raiders. I am looking forward to trying that deck, probably with the Worm's Bat. And it just hit me, maybe with Farstrider. It's their Inspire condition anyway, so.
It truly does. You get back on those Farstriders.
That's right. All right. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, this is Jerod signing out.
this is Trace signing out.
Jason Tabled New Murray. Get the hell out of here.
Peace. The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
Damn it, Jerry, your fan's still going.